Hello, this is Ben Television News Roundup, a compilation of major stories in the week ending. I'm Tunde Alabi. As the killings of U.S. journalist James Foley continues to attract world condemnation, a U.S. official has said the U.S. military earlier this year carried out an attempt to rescue James Foley and other American hostages held in Syria in an operation that the Pentagon said ultimately failed to find the captives. U.S. journalist Foley 40 was beheaded by an Islamic State militant in a video that surfaced on the internet last Tuesday, describing the murder of Foley as an act of violence that shocked the conscience of the entire world. U.S. President Barack Obama said that the militants had killed innocent civilians, subjected women and children to torture, rape and slavery, promising that the U.S. would do what it needed to do to protect its citizens anywhere in the world.
Today, the entire world is appalled by the brutal murder of Jim Foley by the terrorist group ISIL. Jim was a journalist, a son, a brother, and a friend. He reported from difficult and dangerous places, bearing witness to the lives of people a world away. He was taken hostage nearly 2 years ago in Syria, and he was courageously reporting at the time on the conflict there. Jim was taken from us in an act of violence that shocks the conscience of the entire world. He was 40 years old, one of 5 siblings, the son of a mom and dad who worked tirelessly for his release. Earlier today I spoke to the Foleys and told them that we are all heartbroken at their loss and join them in honoring Jim and all that he did. Now, Jim Foley's life stands in stark contrast to his killers. Let's be clear about ISIL. They have rampaged across cities and villages, killing innocent, unarmed civilians in cowardly acts of violence. They abduct women and children and subject them to torture and rape and slavery. They have murdered Muslims, both Sunni and Shia, by the thousands. They target Christians and religious minorities, driving them from their homes, murdering them when they can, for no other reason than they practice a different religion. They declare their ambition to commit genocide against an ancient people. So ISIL speaks for no religion. Their victims are overwhelmingly Muslim, and no faith teaches people to massacre innocents. No just God would stand for what they did yesterday and what they do every single day. ISIL has no ideology of any value to human beings. Their ideology is bankrupt. They may claim out of expediency that they are at war with the United States or the West, but the fact is they terrorize their neighbors and offer them nothing but an endless slavery to their empty vision and the collapse of any definition of civilized behavior. And people like this ultimately fail. They fail because the future is won by those who build and not destroy, and the world is shaped by people like Jim Foley and the overwhelming majority of humanity who are appalled by those who killed him. The United States of America will continue to do what we must do to protect our people. We will be vigilant and we will be relentless. When people harm Americans anywhere, we do what's necessary to see that justice is done, and we act against ISIL, standing alongside others. The people of Iraq, who with our support are taking the fight to ISIL, must continue coming together to expel these terrorists from their communities. The people of Syria, whose story Jim Foley told, do not deserve to live under the shadow of a tyrant or terrorists. They have our support in their pursuit of a future rooted in dignity. From governments and peoples across the Middle East, there has to be a common effort to extract this cancer so that it does not spread. There has to be a clear rejection of these kind of nihilistic ideologies. One thing we can all agree on is that a group like ISIL has no place in the 21st century. Friends and allies around the world, we share a common security and a common set of values that are rooted in the opposite of what we saw yesterday. And we will continue to confront this hateful terrorism and replace it with a sense of hope and civility. That's what Jim Foley stood for. A man who lived his work, who courageously told the stories of his fellow human beings, and who was liked and loved by friends and family. Today, the American people will all say a prayer for those who love Jim. All of us feel the ache of his absence. All of us mourn his loss. We keep in our prayers those other Americans who are separated from their families. We will do everything that we can to protect our people and the timeless values that we stand for. May God bless and keep Jim's memory, and may God bless the United States of America.
In the meantime, British Prime Minister David Cameron, while condemning the act as brutal, so that the British government and its security agencies are making efforts to identify the militant responsible for the killing of James Foley, who seemed to have a British accent.
Well, first of all, let me condemn completely the barbaric and brutal act that has taken place. And let's be clear what this act is. It is an act of murder, and murder without any justification. Now, we have not identified the individual responsible on the video, but from what we've seen, it looks increasingly likely that it is a British citizen. Now, this is deeply shocking, but we know that far too many British citizens have travelled to Iraq and travelled to Syria to take part in extremism and violence. And what we must do is redouble all our efforts to stop people going, to take away the passports of those contemplating travel, to arrest and prosecute those that take part in this extremism and violence, to take extremist material off the internet, and do everything we can to keep our people safe. And that is what this government will do. We will stick to the very clear foreign policy and the very clear strategy that we have, which is to work with the new Iraqi government to help make sure the Kurds get the arms they need to fight off these brutal extremist militants, to work with our allies, and as I've said, to use everything that we have, our aid, our diplomacy and our military prowess, to make sure that with allies we do everything we can to put the pressure on Islamic State, this appalling organisation, and everything we can back here at home to keep our country safe. That is what we must do. But I've been very clear that this country is not going to get involved in another Iraq war. We're not putting combat troops, combat boots on the ground. That's not something we should do. We have a clear strategy. We should stick to that strategy. And specifically here at home, we have very clear laws, tough laws. And of course, we'll always look at new proposals for even tougher laws to deal with terrorism and extremism. But it is not a time for a knee-jerk reaction. It is time for what Britain always shows in these circumstances, and that is resolve. We have defeated terrorism, extremism, threats to our country before, and we will defeat them again if we show that resolve, but also patience. This struggle against Islamist extremism, not a struggle of one religion against another, it's of all people and all religions, including Islam, against a poisonous extremism. We must show patience and resolve in fighting this here at home in the UK and in other parts of the world where countries are being affected. I've been very clear as Prime Minister over the last 4 years that this battle we face against Islamist extremism, not the religion of Islam, but a poisonous, extremist, violent narrative, is a generational struggle. It's a battle we have to fight in our own country. It's a battle that with allies, using everything that we have, our aid, our diplomacy, and yes, on occasions, our military prowess, that we have to fight, whether it is dealing with this problem in Somalia, in Mali, in Afghanistan, in Iraq and Syria. Because as much as we want to focus on keeping ourselves safe here at home, and that is my focus, what happens in these other far-flung places can come back and cause us huge harm here too.
U.S. military has continued to target IS militants in the meantime in fresh airstrikes despite IS threat of executing another U.S. captive. Back to the United Kingdom now, many rail fares in England, including season tickets, are set to increase by an average of 3.5% next year, January. This report from Oli Christian Brooks highlights people's reaction to the planned increase in rail fare.
For those living in some of Britain's major cities, the announcement this week that rail fares will increase by 3.5% next year could cause problems for regular train users. We spoke to some members of the public to see what they thought about the planned increase. So what do you think about the planned fare increases next year?
Not right.
Why is that?
Because it's not fair on the public. Keep increasing it every year. Salaries are not increasing, but fares keep increasing. Cost of living is increasing, but salaries are not increasing. So what's the point in increasing it every year? What is it giving us by increasing it every year?
Do you think they should look at increasing rates in other areas like car tax or fuel tax or something like that?
Maybe when they increase all the salaries, then they can think of increasing everything.
Well, I don't think it's very good because the fares are quite high anyway, and a lot of people's wages aren't that much, and they have to travel to work. Well, everybody has to travel, so I don't think it's a good idea.
Do you think the government should be looking to increase taxes or fares in other areas such as car tax or fuel tax or something like that?
Well, I think fuel tax should be scrapped. Actually, road tax should be scrapped and added onto the fuel, so you're only paying for what you use.
I think it's disgusting. I think we pay enough at the minute, but don't intend to pay anymore. Get a bicycle, okay?
What impact do you think this is going to have on regular train users?
I think they'll find other ways to commute. I think that more people will use the buses, more people will use their own transport. In fact, it might bring a lot more cars on the road.
Do you think that the government should look to tax and increase fares in the car sector in terms of road tax and fuel tax?
Well, what's the use in raising taxes anywhere? I mean, the rail companies are making a fortune out of this. It's the commuter that's in danger, you know. The commuter's not getting anything out of it.
Right, I guess it depends what the money's going towards. If it's going to go towards improving the rail system and it's going to make trains run on time, then that's probably a good thing. I mean, 3%, it's not massive. I don't know what inflation was last year or this year, so. But I guess it does depend if it's going to go to a good cause, then maybe it's worth it. If not, then perhaps not.
What impact do you think it's going to have on regular train users?
Well, it's going to be more expensive for them, of course, but it's they probably don't have any other options, so it's not necessarily going to make them go elsewhere. I get the train every day to work. It's only a 50-minute journey. It's not very expensive, so it's not that big of an issue. But I guess it depends what it's going to go towards. But you're just going to accept it, really. Then it's not that you can do so.
No, only if they kind of improve the service. I think if they can kind of get trains on time and so forth and have better service, then yes, but I don't think it's going towards that, is it, really?
Well, what impact do you think it's going to have on people who use the trains regularly?
I think there'll be financially quite a lot of money on them, especially when most people that use them are students, tourists and people trying to get to work. So that's a huge impact financially, I believe, yeah.
Do you think the government should be looking in other areas to raise fares and taxes, such as car tax or fuel tax?
It's all difficult at the moment because petrol's quite expensive as well, isn't it, I suppose? So, I mean, I think people travelling on trains are going to take a big hit on this. So, yeah, I personally say no. But
well, I think it's expensive enough as it is. I mean, I've just gone a walk from Cross. I've paid £9.50 for a return ticket to Finsbury Park, and the state of the trains is. I mean, the money they charge, you think they'd be in a better condition anyway. There's a seat missing on one of the seats. We just sat down and there's a seat missing there. You'd expect it to be in a better state. I don't think there should be an increase. It should be reduced. Anything else?
Do you think they need to put more measures in place to cap fares as well?
I think they should, yeah. I mean, when you look at today, the daily rate of a person working is like £40-50 take-home pay after all your expenses and your taxes and everything. And I mean, £9.50 for a return to go, it's a bit of a joke, really.
What impact do you think it's going to have on people who take trains regularly?
I think it'll have a big impact in their pocket, definitely. Yeah.
Do you think they'll seek to use other methods of transport, or?
Well, all London transport's expensive anyway, so I mean, probably get a bike, do cycling.
Well, I don't know how to say it. It doesn't affect me really because I'm an elderly person. I use my freedom pass. But then there are there are, what do they call it? There are services. If you want efficient services, they need the money. If they don't need the money, they won't ask for an increase. So as long it has to go both ways to see what they are doing very well. If you want improvements as far as the services is concerned, so you have to pay for it. But then, when you come to think about the economic situation of the, generally not just Britain alone, all over, so it might be difficult for people, to be able to meet up with the increase.
What impact do you think it's going to have on people who regularly use the train? Do you think they'll stop using it and use other methods of transport, or?
I can't say much about that. I don't know whether it's going to affect the bus too. Otherwise, people might turn. Is this peculiar to the rail alone?
Just trains.
The rail. People will turn to bus if it's cheaper, if they can't afford it.
Brilliant.
Just as I said, it has nothing to do with me because I'm an elderly person. I go anywhere with my purse, either on the bus or in the train. So it's both ways. We can't blame the government, really, because they need the money to run it efficiently if you want efficiency.
I don't think it's fair.
Why is that?
It's increasing every year and people haven't really got the money to do it, have they?
What impact is this going to have on you personally?
Personally, it's going to cost a lot more money for me to travel every year. So I do use the trains quite a lot, so does my friend here, Cornell. So I don't think it's fair. I don't see why they have to keep on increasing. Every year it's an increase for no reason.
Can you see where the money's going, or?
To be honest with you, no. I don't know where the money's going now, do you? I don't know where it's going either.
Cost of living's going up except for the wages. Everything's going up except for the pay, you know what I mean? So it's hard. It's hard.
Do you think you'll seek to use other methods of transport, like a bus or car or a bike?
Well, a car.
Car would be nice, but, with the fees of congestion and insurance and MOTs, it's a bit more convenient to use the train, but where the train keeps on going up all the time, it's starting to get on the same level, really. It's not fair at all in my eyes. I mean, I don't see why they have to keep putting up their price. I mean, these train drivers get like 60, 70,000 a year for driving a train. £10 an hour for standing there doing nothing. And there's people like us who have to work for a living and can't really afford to keep paying out all the time every year. It's not right.
Obviously no, because it costs a lot of money and people just can't really afford it. Is the service going to improve? I mean, if the service improves, then it kind of justifies a price increase, but if the service stays the same, then, it's a bit out of order, isn't it, really?
Do you think people will start using other methods of transport instead of the train, or?
No, not really. I think people will just keep using it, because that's just life, isn't it? People still, and that's why they do it, because they know people rely on it and people have to use it, because what other option have they got?
Train fares keep going up and up, so obviously it's going to, it's obviously people are going to stop using the trains, but, it's one of those things that it's going to keep happening, so, yeah.
Do you think people will start using other methods of transport, or?
Well, that's the problem. I think they feel like they could get away with it, maybe, so that's probably why they are pushing it up. So probably not. They probably will start using the trains, but I don't know. 3% increase is quite a lot, so they maybe have to rethink, maybe, I don't know.
I think it's very bad because of the economy right now. It's really, really hard on people. So if it is increased, it will be terrible on people,
What do you think people will do? Do you think they'll start using other methods of transport, or do you think they'll just pay it anyway?
Well, if they have no choice, they have to pay it. But if they have other means of transport, they will take it.
So do you think that the government will continue to increase rail fares then, or do you think that this will be it now?
Well, they always increase it every year, as I know. But hopefully they might stop at this point. They may not. We don't have a choice, so... Yeah.
It is outrageous and scandalous that they should be doing that. What you have is a situation whereby they have year-on-year increase, and it means that it puts a great pressure upon commuters traveling to and from work, and it means that with their increase, they're increasing it way above the rate of inflation, and this has been going on for several years. So it is putting the poor commuter under a great deal of stress and strain. And in any case, furthermore, you don't find wage increase match the increase in the rate of in which the ticket price increases. So you have this imbalance, isn't it? Between, on one hand, they're increasing the fares, But at the same time, on the other hand, you have a situation whereby wage rate is very low, and the cost of living, despite what they said is coming down, is for most people, it is not. So they find that their income don't go far enough to meet the increase in the cost of living, including rail fare.
Do you think people will start to look to use other methods of transport?
Well, people should find alternative means. I am not sure what is the alternative, because car would be the alternative, but then the road is congested as it is, so that would be near impossible for people to drive to work. And in any case, people are coming from miles away. So by the time they drive into London, they would have been exhausted, and not only that, they would run into a lot of traffic jam and exhausted, and of course they would most probably be late for work. So that is not such a very good option. But the thing to do is for people to decide to protest. And protests can take many forms. But one of the things that they should do is not pay the increased fare, but and see what they respond. But there's no reason for the government to do that. Claiming on the grounds that they need to invest in trucks and the trains. And so therefore they've been doing that. So the train company is making profit. So why don't the train company then from their profit invest into these various rail track and the trains itself? So they have been making profit now for year and year over the many years. And for that reason, they should be spending their money from their profit, because they're making more than enough.
Well, it seems the general feeling that many people are going to be very unhappy with the 3.5% increase in rail fares next year. I'm Holly Christian Brooks for Ben Television.
Nigeria's Minister of Education, Malam Shekarau Ibrahim, has said Nigerians should not run down the country in their attempt to expose some of the challenges the country is facing.
Well, I think I quite agree with you. We ought to be doing much better than what it is today. And as I mentioned in my speech, we must improve the quality. I've listed out what it takes to have quality education. And we are identifying two key areas of quality improvement. That is the teacher improvement, provision, that's having sufficient number of teachers, qualified, well-trained, well-remunerated, with their welfare and motivation in place. Then we'll be able to bring in improvement. And then secondly, provision of instructional materials. This we are determined to continue with the current effort by the federal government, and we are going to ask all the states to do the same. So in this, I'm sure we are going to improve the result by the grace of God.
Also speaking alongside the Minister of Education was the High Commissioner to the United Kingdom, Dr. Sergei Dalatu Tafida, who said every nation has its own period of challenges and progress and development becoming fully developed.
Well, we want to educate Nigerians, whether at home or abroad, partly the diasporans in the United Kingdom, what they need to do if they want to go into politics. Politics is not a profession. Politics is a pastime where you think you can assist your people. Politics is not a money-making venture. It is a place where you must serve the people that like you, not people that you buy with money. And this is usually the case. The Nigerians here, they always want to go and contest in Nigeria, and they are not known there. We thought they should have a special relationship with Nigerians, they have at least their own concerns. If they do that, it's very easy for them to be elected. And also politics is not just about election. Politics is about service again. The people without necessarily being elected. You can be a politician without being elected to any office. That's what it is. We want to educate people on that. We want people who want to know more, they can also come and talk to us or ask us any questions.
The duo of Malam Ibrahim Shekarau, Minister of Education, and Nigeria's High Commissioner to the United Kingdom, Dr. Serki Tafide, was speaking at the recently held BNTV Democratic Summit here in London. And this is all we have for you on News Roundup this week. Thank you for staying tuned. I am Tunde Alabi. Until we'll come your way again next week, do have a good time. Bye.